Hey now peeps, today we're going to take a look at Cheaty Mages from AEG. Now this is from Seiji Kanai, who's famous for Love Letter, Lost Legacy, My Star, some of my favorite filler games. And consequently there was an original Japanese version of this, and to AEG's credit, they kept the original artwork and design of that version. I know some people don't like it, some people prefer the substituted artwork they use for some Japanese games. Inexplicably, they seem to just mix and match which ones they want to use the original artwork for. But this is another sort of light card game in the same vein as Kanai's other games. But this one's a bit different. This one is all about bidding. You're bidding on different fighters that are in an arena. You're all like different wizards, as the name of the game implies, and you have all these different fighters like a skeleton, a dragon, an elf, a dark elf, goblin, and they're all fighting in this arena. There's different random assortment of fighters that come out each round, and you're going to put your bidding cards on them, trying to get money, which is going to be points at the end of the game. But of course, Cheaty is in the title as well, so you're going to be casting spells in order to influence these different matches of the different monsters. Make some monsters weaker, make some more powerful, do some funky stuff to the other people's spells that are already out there, all while trying not to piss off the judge who is looking at all of you casting these spells and seeing if you're going too far. So let's go ahead and take a brief look at how the game is played, then we're going to come back and give you my final thoughts. Okay, I'm going to give you a very brief overview of Cheaty Mages. This is a competitive card game for 3 to 6 players. It takes place in a fantasy world where there is this arena combat going on between all of these different types of monsters and demons and orcs. And out here we have an orc, a skeleton, a dark elf, a dragon, and a succubus. And they're fighting it out in an arena, and some of them are more powerful than others. The players represent wizards who are out in the stands, and they are betting on these monsters. They want to bet on the monster that's going to win in order to get a gold value, which is also depicted on their cards. So for instance, the Dark Elf has a power of 7 and a gold value of 4. So if you want to bet on the Dark Elf and try to get that sweet 4 gold coins, well, you're going to have to bet, and you're going to place your betting cards in secret. Every player is going to, once you have the random lineup of 5 monsters, and there's more monsters than that, then you're going to, each player is going to take their betting cards. You have numbered 1 through 5, so that they go down in spots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the monsters, and you're going to secretly bet on at least one of them. Now, if you only bet on one monster, and that monster happens to win at the end of the round, and the game takes place over 3 rounds, then you're going to get double their payout. So if you bet on that Dark Elf that I showed you, you would actually get 8 gold by the end of that round if that one wins. But if you want to play a little bit safer, you can bet on 2 different monsters, and if at least one of those monsters wins, you get the normal payout for that monster. If you want to be even safer, but not really concerned about getting a lot of gold, you can bet on 3 monsters. And if you bet on 3 monsters, then if one of those 3 wins, you're going to get half of the payout. So once each player has placed down their bets, then we're going to get into the meat of the game. Now this is called Cheaty Mages because what you're trying to do is actually influence what's going to happen between the fights of these monsters. You're out in the stands in the arena secretly casting spells on the monsters that you want to win. The turn order is going to go around. You'll start with whoever's going to go first, and then you're going to be playing cards on each of the monsters until you can no longer play anymore. Then you're just going to pass. There's different types of spells in the game. I'll show you a few of them. First, you have enchantment cards, and these are going to either strengthen or weaken the monsters that you have. When you have an enchantment card that you want to play, each player starts with a certain hand number of cards. You're going to put one of those cards next to the monster of your choice, and it goes face down. So none of the other players right away will know what that card is. And then other players can keep playing cards as well. They're just going to, enchant cards at least, that are just going to build up on that monster. So in this case, this one is a strength +3. So at the end of the round, when everyone has passed and it's time to resolve all the cards, then that monster is going to get +3 power. But there's also cards like weaken, which has -3 on it. And I'll get to what this number is in the corner in a minute. There are also direct spells, which you're actually going to play face up, so everyone knows what they are, and they'll be resolved at the end. So you have Fireball here, which is a -4, so you would put that face up next to the monster that you're targeting. Magic Missile, which is a -2 against that person. Then there are also support cards like Duplicate. Support cards can usually affect a number of different things on the board, and most of the time you're just going to play them, resolve their effects, or leave them face up on the monster. So duplicate here says enduring spell, which means it persistently lasts. Target spell has its effects doubled. Mana does not double. So you would actually put this underneath or next to or beside a card, indicating that whatever that enchant spell is, it is now doubled. Just to show you a few of the other ones that you have, here's a Cure card, which is a direct spell, but it gives +2, so you heal some of their stuff. You have some really powerful cards like the Energy Boost, which has a +6 to their power. Another support card is the Imitation. You may exchange one of your betting tickets with one you discarded. You may not play the spell if you only played one bet this round. So essentially, if you during the course of the game, if you see things are not quite going your way, you can swap out one of your betting chips. Another support spell, Amnesia. Target player discards a card, and you only have a certain amount of cards to play each round, so that can be kind of devastating. But you're going to go like this, and you're going to keep playing cards and affecting the outcomes of all of these different matches until either everyone has passed or people have run out of cards. Then you're going to flip all the cards over and resolve each battle and see who has the highest power amongst all the different monsters. Another thing to note is that some of the most powerful monsters, so for instance the dragon here, has a really high power but only has a very low payout of 3. Whereas something like the Orc has very low power, but because of that, his payout is 8. So the odds are against him, so you get more money for betting on him. So you may play a lot of cards on the Orc just to get a huge payout. Now, there's one thing that I haven't talked about here, and it has to do with the numbers that's in the top corner of those of the spell cards, and that's the Judge. Now, in every round, in addition to the row of monsters you're going to have, you're also going to have a Judge, which you'll draw randomly from the stack. So, for instance, here you have Morla, and there's a few different things of note on Morla. First is mana limit. This will be a different number depending on the Judge, and that is what is the number in the top corner of the cards. When there's too much mana being spent on a certain monster, the Judge is going to cry foul. And he's going to say, whoa, 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 whoa. There's too many wizards casting too many spells. There's some shenanigans going on. And then that monster is going to be subject to judgment. In the case of Morla here, it's Dispel, which means that once the mana threshold of 12 has been reached, once all the cards have been flipped, then every card on that monster is going to be dispelled completely, put into the discard pile. In this case, Morla also disallows certain spells. So in this case, no support spells may be cast if Morla is the Judge. Let's take a look at a few other ones. She's a little weird. Zap here has a mana limit of 15, also has the Judgment of Dispel, and he disallows Forbidden cards. Forbidden cards are another powerful type of spell card. Farine here is a bit odd. At the beginning of the Judgment phase, discard the top card of the spell pile to decide her mana limit in Judgment. So depending on what kind of card is discarded, she'll have different effects on the game. Let's see. Adoth here disallows both support and forbidden spells, but has a low mana limit. His judgment is eject, however. So while it's a low mana limit, if that monster is ejected, they are out of this match. So you'll have a different judge each round. You'll have a different lineup of 5 monsters that you'll shuffle up and deal each time. And then players are going to get some cards and play them out, trying to get the desired effect. You'll do this 3 times, trying to gain as much money as you can each time. Then whoever has the most money at the end of 3 rounds is the winner, and that's Cheaty Mages. Well, Cheaty Mages is certainly light. It does still qualify as a filler game, although it can be a little bit longer than you would suspect. I think that once you played it a couple times, then the time that says on the box, which is 30 minutes, is fairly appropriate. I would say that's probably what your average game is going to be, depending on the number of players. I think that maybe 4 players is the sweet spot for this, but I think you can go up to 6, I believe. Let's just make sure. Yes, you can go up to 6 players. I probably wouldn't recommend that. The game's going to start to, wear out its welcome when you get to that many players. Then you're talking about a 45 minutes, maybe even an hour game. But at about 4 players, I think it runs at a good clip. It's very fast. The design and components, I mean, there's not much to it. It's just cards. It's just a simple card game. But I do like the original Japanese art. I'm glad they stuck with it. Not that it's like fantastic, but it's so different than what I'm used to seeing on American card games, or like the weird Larry Elmore style art that they used for their other Japanese card game that AEG released, 7 Saga. So I'm glad they stuck with it on this one. As for the gameplay itself, it's, like I said, it's very light, it's very simple. You're just bidding on these monsters and trying to play magic cards down, but not really knowing what your opponents did. And I think that that's part of the fun of the game, and that's part of the reason why I don't like the game, because it is so chaotic. It is very, very chaotic, but it's not fast enough for me to really appreciate that aspect of it. I mean, you can just randomly see people just throw a ton of spells down on something, then all the spells get wiped away, and it's like you never did by the judge or by some card effect or whatever it might be, and then it's like you haven't done anything. You haven't accomplished anything. Then it's just like whoever had one single spell on another monster by random chance, that monster wins. I mean, you could say that there's some strategy in that, and that you're trying to outthink your opponents, outwit them, be more clever than the rest of the people at the table. But really what it comes down to is randomly hoping that you get the right uber powerful cards from the deck, because some of them are clearly better than others, and not getting a crap hand. And that has happened to several people in our games who just get totally crap hands and can't do anything with it. You know, there's no essence of make the best of what you can do, because if you just get a crap hand, you're stuck. In which case it comes down to pure random chance of who you're betting on and hoping that you bet on the right people. If you can't do anything, hoping that someone else is going to. But again, it's totally random. Everyone has different things that they're working towards, and you're never quite sure what's going on. And it just... I know that those are supposed to be the strengths of the game, and there's people that are really going to appreciate that. I'm not one of them. I don't like the bidding process. I don't like the seemingly randomly putting out spells on people. I like the concept of the lineup of monsters and the judge who has each judge being different and having different effects on the battlefield. That whole concept is very cool and actually makes it feel like you're doing some sort of arena thing. But there's too few monsters, first off. It's, you know, you play, the game takes place over a few rounds and you've seen every monster. You'll probably see the same ones over and over again, so there's not enough monsters. Sometimes the judge's effects simply do nothing, and it feels kind of boring. And I don't know, I don't like this one. If there's anyone that should have liked this game, it was me, and I was definitely looking forward to it when it first came out. It's been out for a while now, but it's a huge disappointment compared to Kanai's other work. And I think that's one of the reasons why you've seen it kind of just drift off into not... You know, no one's really clamoring for this game right now, and for good reason. I think that other games like Love Letter, Lost Legacy, even My Star, totally eclipse this game for the same play length or less. My Star can run a little bit long, but for what this is, too chaotic, too frustrating for more than one person that I've played with, including myself. Just not a good time, and I wouldn't recommend it compared to the sum total of the rest of his work. This is definitely the outlier and not one for me. My name is Nick, this has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.